Hey, what's going on, folks? Ty here, Chasing Cardboard. Hope you're doing well. We have an awesome update for you today. We're going to be talking about the results from episode 4, a collection that we purchased in Loveland, Colorado with a gentleman named Casey. We had our boys with us on that trip. It was a great conversation, a great story, and a pretty good collection. I'm going to walk you through the numbers of that particular deal. We'll walk through some of the cards that we graded, the highs, the lows, and some learnings that we took away from that particular deal. But before we do that, I want to tell you a really neat story. We actually got texted from Casey about a month ago, and he said, hey, really appreciate you guys coming out. I actually ended up running into another collection after you guys left, a few weeks after you left, and it's a very obscure collection. I got a bunch of old, vintage Superman cards, Batman cards. It's got some Playball stuff, some pre-war stuff. Would you guys be interested? I would love to do another deal with you. I trust you guys. And it's a reminder, first off, of why you treat people right, because you want your network to build out as you do these deals. We've had this happen multiple times after completing a deal. Do people right, and they'll come back and they'll treat you well. So it worked out because we actually had Matt in the area this week near Loveland, Colorado for a family trip, and he was able to swing by to see if we could complete another deal with Casey. Check it out.
So for the last couple of weeks, I've been in Colorado, and Ty and I were here a couple of weeks ago filming, and we met a guy named Casey that had some really cool cards. I think we spent about $8,000 with him, and we got a lot of really cool vintage stuff. So now that I'm back in town, I think I'm gonna swing out to Loveland and hook up with Casey and see if I can strike a deal with him. All right, so I'm at Casey's. Just got to get some money together. Negotiating, I think, texting, he wanted like 900. So tell me how things been going since we shot the episode.
Things have been really good. I've found out that I still got the itch for cards, and I've been looking for lots and been able to find a few here and there. And I think collecting is something that I'll probably never stop doing.
Yeah. And you kind of have your feelers out everywhere. You're still hitting your neighbors.
Yeah, I'm always, looking for a way to make money and satisfy my need for collecting at the same time. And so, yeah, I'll never pass up a good deal when it comes to baseball cards and collecting cards.
Right. How do you feel after watching episode 4? What are your thoughts?
Super stoked about the way you guys filmed it and how you included, every aspect of the time we spent together, and you guys just didn't pick what you liked. You put in there, who I was and what I was about. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. There'll be a recap video recapping the grades.
I'd be super excited to see some of the grades of the cards that I sold you guys.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
And this one here is, I think, almost considered Jimmy Fox rookie. I mean,
is it really?
It's
there.
There was an earlier card, but in this set that would be his rookie card. And
very cool.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to make like a long picture, right?
I have no idea.
It's supposed to be like a long strip.
Oh, okay.
They're called like strip cards, I think.
Okay. I have no idea.
Thanks again.
You're welcome. Thank you guys. Appreciate y'all.
I didn't even haggle with him on the price. He said he wanted $900 for all the Playball and the Superman cards and like these G-Men World War II cards and this other stuff. And I said, yeah, I'll give you $900. That's what you want. And he said, because you didn't haggle me, I had this set aside to give to you. He pulled out this shoebox, and in the shoebox was like 100 to 200 more of these 1942 World War II cards. You just don't meet people like that. It's people that are that genuine and kind of nice. That's what makes this card collecting thing so great.
All right, so how cool is that, right? Again, a reminder of why you treat people right. You never know what opportunities will come from a conversation or a deal that you work, and you build that and that relationship, and they come back to point you to another collection. So in the hobby, it's a small world. Do right for people, and they'll do right for you. So again, awesome reminder. Can't wait to grade those cards that Matt picked up this week. Now let's talk about the cards that we purchased from Casey back in episode 4. Now, when we look to grade cards, we have a pretty simple criteria with vintage cards. Any cards that are premier rookies or even premier second year cards in decent condition, we're probably going to grade. Anything older than 1956 will probably grade of any semi-star or star, regardless of it being a rookie. And of course, any card from 1960, 1970 and earlier that's in near mint or mint condition, we're probably going to grade. Now, we usually have a threshold for about a $75 ungraded value before we grade the card. But for the most part, we fit things within that criteria and we grade every single time. And the reason why we grade even stuff on the fringe is because as a seller, as a collector, as somebody that maybe goes to shows and deals cards, having those cards authenticated, encapsulated, put in slab, it goes a long way in just reducing the amount of confusion and frustration between a buyer and seller on the condition of a card, especially vintage. Nobody has the right, nobody has the exact same value system when it comes to grading cards. And so when you have a third party do that for you, it just makes life a lot easier. So I grade more than the average person for that reason alone. Okay, now, when I got back and evaluated Casey's collection in the hotel, I was already a little concerned that maybe I overpaid because I didn't get the chance to dig into condition on a lot of those vintage cards. And it's just part of the deal, right? We're doing these deals and we're filming and we're having conversations and telling stories. I don't take a lot of cards out of the one touches or the magnetic cases, the screw downs, and evaluate condition the right way. And with vintage cards, a 2 or 3 point swing can mean hundreds of dollars in difference. And so it is what it is, but there was some wins and there was definitely some losses as a part of that deal. So I knew I was gonna have to really grind it out over the next few months to kind of get back to break even and profit on that collection. But we are back to break even, actually a little bit more than break even. We've completed over 200 transactions already from Donald's lot. And I'm gonna talk you through some of the wins and losses. Let's start with one of the losses. It's a card that I had in the SGC 6+ category. I actually pegged it as a 7. The 1965 Topps Joe Morgan rookie card is actually a dual rookie. Sonny Jackson's on the other side of that card. Look, centering looked good, edges look good, surface looked good, corners look good. I'm thinking, gosh darn, this is a great card to grade. I cannot wait to see the results of this. And I sent that off. Ungraded, it sells for about 50 bucks. That's what I would have got it for. I knew an SGC 6 would get me about 200. An SGC 7 would get me about 300 plus. Well, the card came back in SGC 5. And as I looked at it, when it came back, I realized in the back left corner, it was a little dinged up. And I don't know if that happened during shipping or what. I did not see that when I shipped it off. Regardless, I would have graded it. And I ended up selling the card for about $120. So a bit of a swing there, right? It's a card that I missed on, was a little frustrated. The next card is probably the most surprising of the bunch. And that was the 1969 Topps Nolan Ryan. It's an iconic card for a couple reasons. First off, it's a great picture. It's a very memorable picture. A lot of people that know that card immediately when they see it. It's his second year card. His rookie was in 68. His second year card is unique because it's his first solo card. His rookie card is actually a dual rookie, very similar to the Joe Morgan. And the second year card really is that first card that pops in the Nolan Ryan collection. And so to get that card is great. In addition, it's a hard card to find in a high grade. Centering's always tough with the 69 set. And so when we got the card, I was thinking it would grade maybe in the 4 range. We sent it off, it came back in SGC 5 and it looked awesome in the SGC tuxedo slab. And I was able to sell that card for $420. Just a great card. It's an iconic card. Really glad that I got that, and I feel pretty comfortable with that SGC 5 grade. So a pretty big win there from the collection. Next is the 1954 Topps Al Kaline rookie, and if you recall from that particular episode, I saw that card and I even mentioned that this is going to come back in SGC 1. It just is, and that's okay. This is an iconic rookie card. But this is a perfect example of a card that I just wanted authenticated. I wanted encapsulated. I wanted to make sure people felt comfortable with it. And I could have sold that raw for between $180 and probably $215. But I sent it off, paid the $30, and ended up selling the card for $275. So I added a little bit of value, gave peace of mind to both me as a seller and the buyer of the card. And so it was well worth getting that card graded. The Al Kaline rookie, really great card. All right, so another miss from the collection, just a misread on my part, was the 2001 Topps Chrome Update, or late edition as they called it back in 2001. Look, I saw this card and I'm gonna get it graded unless it has serious damage to it. And I saw the card, it was in a screw down. And I looked at it and first glance, and that's really all I took at this card when I was buying the collection, it looked really good. Like every corner looked good, edges looked good. You can't really tell the surface in a screw down, but from, again, first glance, it looked pretty good. I knew that card in a 9 was gonna be 300, a 9.5 was gonna be 400 to 500. And you get that card in a 10, and you're talking $1,500 to $2,000. It's a big card. Albert Pujols is sure to be first ballot Hall of Famer when the time comes. He's actually still playing. But when I took it out of the screw down case, I realized that the bottom left corner had some damage to it, and it just was frustrating to see because that's one of those things I would have noticed anyway. And I probably would have brought that up in the negotiation because that was probably a top 10 or 15 card from my perspective. Now, I ended up sending the card in to get graded anyway because I thought maybe it would come back as a 7.5 to 8.5, which is fine. It's still gonna add a little bit of value, peace of mind, and it did come back in SGC 8. I could have sold it raw for probably 50 to 75, so again, added 10 to 20 bucks in value. Maybe not worth it, but ultimately it was a loss because I just expected that card to grade much higher, but lesson learned. Take cards out of a screw down case before you evaluate on grading, especially a card that swings hundreds of dollars from an 8 to a 10. A really nice surprise from the collection was the 1961 Topps Pittsburgh Pirates card. Now, team cards are great and they go overlooked many times because people think they're like checklist cards, like they have no value, but team cards back in the day were great because you had so many Hall of Famers popping in and out of those team cards. And depending on the year, depending on the set, there's some iconic team cards. And that 61 Topps Pirates card was headlined by Clemente. And I saw that card and I did not even notice it or think twice about it when I was evaluating the collection. But when I got the card, it became a $5 card, selling it ungraded to, oh my goodness, this thing might actually grade pretty well. And so I submitted the team card to get graded. It came back in SGC 7, which is outstanding. I ended up selling the card for $105, and it's a great win because it was one of those that just snuck in there. I didn't even notice it, and it graded super well. And it's a great card that's gonna go to a Pirates collector in a high grade, and I love seeing that happen. So $100 for a $5 card, I'll take that all day. All right, and another surprise that came out of that was a part of the play balls that we graded because it was the Bill Dickey card. It was graded an SGC 4.5, which is a super high grade for a 30s card. Bill Dickey was an 11-time All-Star, 8-time World Champion, a Hall of Famer, Yankees player, also a general manager. Had a lot to do with coaching Yogi Berra and kind of his rise to fame as a catcher. So there was a lot to like about that card. It's a card that I wasn't gonna keep in my collection. I really had no desire to keep it. But it went from being just an ungraded $10 to $15 card to a 4.5, which sold for $140. And it was just a great win, and I'm super glad to connect that with a Yankees collector or whoever else is collecting Bill Dickey cards. A Hall of Famer from 1938 and an SGC 4.5 is a huge win from that collection, so I was really glad to pull that one out. Okay, so the biggest win in my book from the collection so far was the 1975 Topps Mini George Brett rookie. And here's why that was such a win. There was other cards that sold for more and cards that came back in low grade, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Clemente's that sold for, higher value than this card. But this is a win for me because as a George Brett guy, as a Royals collector, I knew exactly what I was looking at. And the 1975 set was unique because it was kind of overlooked first off. It only had 2 really key rookies in that set, and they're current Hall of Famers, Robin Yount and George Brett. But the mini version of that card was printed less, a lot less. It was sold in vending machines, and a few states didn't even sell the cards. And so it was really hard to find these cards back in the day. And it was during a period where the late 70s, just weren't great economically speaking in America. And so For years, for decades, these cards were overlooked. And it wasn't until really the early 2000s when people started realizing that finding those mini versions is really hard to do, at least in high grade form. And so I saw the George Brett, knew it was his rookie, and it looked awesome. I was hoping for at least a 7 on that card. Could have sold it raw for $100, sold it graded SGC 7 for $220, added some value. Well worth, I think, the investment. And it's a card that if you didn't know much about that era, you probably wouldn't have graded it. But that's the best part about chasing cardboard and chasing collections, is learning the intricacies of these sets. So I challenge you, don't get overwhelmed. Do a little research. I think you'll realize that there's tons of value in sports card collecting, and that's the best part about this, is grinding it out, learning how to add value, trade up, do things to build out your collection and chase cardboard. It's so fun. Hope that helped you. Have a good week. See ya.